Hello everyone, welcome. Welcome to English with Shalini. And in this today's video, we are going to discuss history of English literature. We will discuss all the literary ages from Anglo-Saxon age to post-modern age in a very brief way. So we will start our discussion with Old English period, and Anglo-Saxon period. The timeline of the Anglo-Saxon period, approximately from the 450 AD to 1066 AD, and this age is also called Anglo-Saxon period. Old English language was a mixture of native Britannic language and tribal Germanic language. The Anglo-Saxons used alliteration and cannings in their poetry, and Anglo-Saxon poetry can be divided into three types. So we have heroic poetry, and its classic example is Beowulf, which is also called the national epic of England. And then there are lyric poetry, and in under the lyric poetry we have wanderer and seafarer. Then there are also Christian poetry, such as which themes are based on Christianity and religion. An example is Dream of the Road. The popular poets of the Old English period are Cadman and Cenewulf. Now, Saint Augustine came to England during this period, and he came around 597 AD, and he started Christianity in England. He spread Christianity in England, and by that, prose also developed during the time. And in this age, King Alfred the Great was the main figure in Anglo-Saxon prose writing, and he started the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which continued from 9th century to 11th century. So that was Anglo-Saxon age. Now we will discuss Anglo-Norman age. So it begins with Norman conquest in 1066 AD. 1066 AD, and it is also called the Anglo-French period because French influence was very dominant in this period, and it belonged to the Middle English period. The upper class were speaking in French during this period, and the ordinary people, common people, spoke Old English. Universities were established during this age. So Oxford University was established during 12th century, and Cambridge University was established in 13th century. And the popular poets of this age are Geoffrey of Monmouth, Wace, and Layman, Pearl Poet. And popular works of this age are Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Owl and the Nightingale. Now we'll move forward to the next stage, and that is age of Chaucer. So age of Chaucer comes within Middle English period, and its timeline is 1340 AD to 1400 AD. Now this is a beginning of the English literature, opening moment of the English literature, and Geoffrey Chaucer lived under the main poet of this age was Geoffrey Chaucer, upon which the name of the age of Chaucer. And Geoffrey Chaucer lived under the rule of three kings: Edward III, Richard II, Henry IV. The notable events which were very prominent during that age are Hundred-Year War, which was a long fight between France and England. And during this age, Black Death came, which is also called bubonic plague because it was caused by the black rats. And during this age, a very great rebellion was fought. That was a peasant rebellion, and Chaucer was the greatest writer of this age. The most important works of Geoffrey Chaucer are Canterbury Tales, The Book of Duchess, House of Fame, Parliament of Fowls, Troilus and Cresside, Legend of Good Woman. So these are the great works of Chaucer, and there are some important prose work in this age of Chaucer, which was very popular during this age, and one is John Wycliffe's Bible. John Wycliffe has written Bible in this age. He has translated. So John Wycliffe is considered one of the medieval forerunners of the Protestant Reformation. His criticism of the practices of the belief of the church foreshadowed the latter reformers. So John Wycliffe translated Latin Bible into vernacular English, and by that, common people can read Bible in their language. Now we will discuss Age of Revival. Age of Revival and its timeline is from 1400 AD to 1555 AD, and it comes after Age of Chaucer. And the notable events which happened during this age are arrival of printing press. Printing press arrived in Europe by William Caxton, but it was brought in England during this age by Caxton. By Caxton, sorry, Gutenberg brought printing press in Europe, but William Caxton brought printing press in England. Earlier there was wood block printing was famous there. Then Reformation by Martin Luther was a notable event of this age, and Martin Luther was a German monk, and he talked about the ill practices of Catholic Church. He protested against Catholic Church, and his followers were called Protestant because they protested. And then there was a War of Roses, which was fought between the two royal English royalists, and the House of York and the uh, House of York and House of Lancaster. It was an internal battle for the throne. After the War of Roses ended, Tudor dynasty was established in England with the Henry VII, and Henry VII was the first Tudor king. And his successor was Henry VIII, who married 6 times for getting a son, and Henry VIII established Anglican Church in England. His first wife was Catherine Aragon, and she gave to the daughter Mary, who became Queen of England later on. Then his second wife, Anne Boleyn, gave birth to the Elizabeth. Elizabeth became glorious queen of um, in Elizabethan age, and that age was also called a golden age. The popular authors of this period are Erasmus. He was a great scholar. Then there were Thomas More, William Tyndale, Thomas Mallory. Now we are going to discuss Elizabethan age, and its timeline is from 1558 to 1603. So this is a golden age. This is a age of Chaucer also. Many names have been given to this age. And the timeline of the Elizabethan age is reign of Queen Elizabeth, which is from 1558 to 1603. She died in 1603, and after that age ended. Queen Elizabeth was a Protestant queen, but she came to the throne after the violent reign of half sister, her stepsister Queen Mary, who was also called Bloody Mary. But Queen Elizabeth was very tolerant queen, and she restored peace and harmony in England. Both the Catholics and Protestants were living in complete harmony and with peace in England during this age. And during this age, Renaissance humanism was very in prominence, and so it was flourishing like anything in this age. And important characteristics of the Elizabethan age are like means they are very great abundance of output, great literature was being written, sonnets were being written, drama was very popular. The popular poets of the Elizabethan age are Edmund Spenser, Sir Philip Sidney. Shakespeare also wrote many sonnets, and the drama flourished during this age, Elizabethan age. And the famous dramatists of the Elizabethan age are Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Kidd, and William Shakespeare. Undoubtedly, William Shakespeare is the greatest literary figure of this age. So this age is also called Age of Shakespeare. Now we will discuss Jacobean age. Jacobean age. The term Jacobean is often used for the distinctive style of Jacobean architecture and visual arts and decorative arts. And after the age of Elizabeth, we come to the age of Jacobean age. And timeline of this Jacobean age is the reign of King James I from 1603 to 1625. So King James became was once a king of Scotland, and there he was called James Sixth. But when he came to England, he was called James First, and so he was the first Stuart king. So we can see that Stuart dynasty started with him, and Tudor dynasty came to end after the death of Queen Elizabeth. a very important a very important event which happened during this age was gunpowder treason or a gunpowder plot. And its conspirators are the small group of Catholic supporters. They wanted to murder King James first, and they wanted to restore Catholicism in England once again. So Guy Fawkes was the main conspirator and the main plotter of that gunpowder treason, and who later on arrested by the king's men with his supporters, and he was executed. Then after that we have Caroline age. Caroline age. After Jacobean age, we have Caroline age. The son of King James First was Charles First, and he became the next ruler of England. He was second son of King James First. His elder brother died, and he became king later on. Charles First became king. So the timeline of the Caroline age is the reign of Charles, King Charles, who is from the which is from 1625 to 1640. King Charles first took several wrong decisions and several misfit decisions that made people get fed of him, and they were fed of that king, and they removed him out of England, and there was a situation which led to the civil war. The major dramatist who wrote during this Jacobean age and during the Caroline age also are the Ben Jonson, George Chapman, Beaumont and Fletcher, John Webster, and Thomas Middleton. So they were writing in both ages. Now, metaphysical poetry was very popular during this Caroline age, and the metaphysical poets were Andrew Marvell, John Donne, George Herbert, and John Donne was the means a kind of a leader of this group. Great, a great poet of that age. So, after this Caroline age, we have Civil War and the Commonwealth period, and its timeline is from 1640 to 1660. So that is so, and during this age, civil war was broken between the King Charles First and the Parliament of England, and they were Puritans, and they were headed by Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell is a Puritan, and in 1649, Oliver Cromwell executed King Charles First, after which he became the Lord Protector of England, and in that way, age that protectorate established the most important writers during this age. They were writing in Civil War period also, and they were writing in Commonwealth period also, because literature can be not be bounded in a particular age. It is a kind of a flow. It is a kind of a river. Literature is a kind of river which flow from one age to another. So, important writers who wrote during the this age are John Milton. He was author of Paradise Lost, a great epic of England, and John Bunyan was also a great author, and John Bunyan wrote uh, Pilgrim's Progress. So now we have a Restoration Age. Restoration Age timeline is from 1660 to 1700. And the King Charles II, who was the son of King Charles I, who was executed during the Civil War period, and Charles II was restored to the throne of England in 1660. Earlier, he had to fled to France to save his life, but when Oliver Cromwell died, he came to England, and a restoration of monarchy was done. So, this age refers to the restoration of monarchy in England, and it is called Restoration Age. The ban was theatre, which was on theatres. There was a huge ban during the age of Puritan's age. This ban was lifted, and Restoration is also called the age of Dryden because the greatest writer of this age was John Dryden. He was the key literary figure, and the popular poets other than Dryden during this age are William Congreve, John Vanbrugh, Alfra Bain, Thomas Rhymer. Now, Alfra Bain is a great female writer of this age, and she has written a drama called Rover, which is very, very famous. Now, after this age come is Enlightenment age, and this age is an age. Enlightenment is also called age of reason, an age of sensibility, and new classical age, also an Augustine age. So it has been given many names, and timeline is from 13 um, from 1700 to 1798. Now, this is age of prose and reason because prose was being written in this age and reason was dominant in this age. There was a scientific revolution during the Enlightenment age with scientists such as Newton and Galileo, and coffee houses were being started during this age, and which headed to the publication of magazine. So there was a abundance of magazine during this age, and the dictionary of English language, which was published by Samuel Johnson, great literary figure of this age. And during this period, this dictionary of English language was published, and in this age, people generally wrote satires, and the most notable writers during this Enlightenment age are Alexander Pope, and his famous work is Rape of the Lock, and many other famous works are there. Then Jonathan Swift, Richard Steele, Joseph Addison, Samuel Richardson, Daniel Defoe, and Henry Fielding. So these were a great novelist. Henry Fielding, Samuel Richardson, Daniel Defoe, they were great novelists. And novel saw a new rise in this age. It was the age of novel also. Now we will discuss Romantic Age. Now, Romantic Age timeline is 1798 to 1837. Now, this age started with the publication of lyrical ballad, and lyrical ballad was started by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. They were friends, and together they published lyrical ballads. And so, with this publication of lyrical ballad, Romantic Age started. Now, industrial revolution took place during this age. Um, Due to harmful effect of industries and the smoke and pollution, this was a age of the pollution and motorization, and people were being dehumanized, and the writers of this age wanted to get back to nature. They wanted to return to nature, so there was a great cry for return to nature, and there was an idealization of rural life to get away from the city life and the village life. Feeling and emotions became very important during this age, and writers wrote in very plain language and simple language because they were fed up with the complexity in language of the earlier ages, which was very stereotyped and the complex and artificial. So Uh, they wrote in the language which ordinary people can understand easily, and the forerunners of this age are William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Robert Southey, P.B. Shelley, Lord Byron, and John Keats. Now, novelists were also popular during this age, and the popular novelists were Jane Austen, Walter Scott, Horace Walpole, Richard Sheridan. And Jane Austen was the great novelist of this age, greatest novelist of this age. Now, after that, we come Victorian age, and its timeline is from 1837 to 1901. So, this age start with the 1837 when Queen Victoria became Queen of England, and this is also called the next golden age of Britain after the Elizabethan age. And as industrial revolution was going on and flourishing during this age, conditions of working class was deteriorating day by day. The poor people condition was deteriorating, and this was the reason that uh, Victorian people started writing about the working condition of these people, and working class movement was started, and writers such as Charles Dickens and Elizabeth Gaskell started writing about this social condition, and they were writing social novels on social reforms during this age. And Charles Darwin published The Origin of Species in a Victorian age, and this work changed the outlook of people completely. How they look to God, how they are going to look to religion. So their whole outlook was changed. Now there was a clash between faith and reason in Victorian age. Some people believed in faith and religion. Some were questioning this religious structure, and they were giving emphasis on reason. Now, popular poets of the Victorian age are Alfred Tennyson. He was poet laureate also. Then Robert Browning, great optimistic poet. Matthew Arnold, Gerald Manley, Hopkins, D.G. Rossetti, who was the forerunner of the that pre-Raphaelite movement, and then Gerald Manley Hopkins. So these are the main figure. And after the popular novelist of the Victorian age, we have a popular novelist like Charles Dickens, George Eliot, William Makepeace Thackeray, and some other writers was also like Emily Bront, Annie Bront, and Thomas Hardy, and Oscar Wilde. So Oscar Wilde was the forerunner of the aesthetic movement, which was started during this age. So there was a two movement, basic movement during this age was aesthetic movement and free Raphaelite movement. Now we will discuss modern age, and the modern age started after the uh, end of Victorian age. So it started from 1901 to 1945. It ended in 1945, and the World War First took place between 1914 and 1918, and people started massive destruction. People were very fed up with the massive destruction during the First World War. People were dying. Then there was the Great Depression occurred during this age. It was from 1929 to 1930, and this financial crisis shook the stock market, and stock market crashed during this age, and it affected the global economy of whole world. Modern writers such as T.S. Eliot saw a decline in civilization, a deterioration in civilization, and degradation in humanity. And there was a weird kind of situation. And he has written a classic work called The Westland on this situation of modern age. So that a classic example of this age is The Westland by T.S. Eliot. Now, modern writers also became interested in the functioning of human brain. They wanted to know the human brain, how the mind works, and this started with the theory of Sigmund Freud, who was a great psychologist, and he published. Interpretation of dreams in 1900, and this work led to the stream of consciousness technique in novel. And there was a non-linearity in the plot of was there, but there was not a proper plot in this age. During this age, novels were written without any proper plot, and symbolism was there, and this was used by many writers. Some notable writers of this age are T.S. Eliot, W.B. Yeats, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, Joseph Conrad, George Orwell, D.H. Lawrence, E.M. Foster, and G.B. Shaw. So this was a that age full of confusion, and literature reflected this confusion completely. So now finally we have come to postmodern age, and its timeline is from 1945 to the present age, and it started after the Second World War in 1945, and Britain lost its power and its control over its colonies, and United States of America became superpower during this age because of its great economy and its power, superpower, and everything is fragmented during this age. Everything was discarded, nothing was in order, and writers started to celebrate this absurdity. They were now content with this absurdity. They found that they cannot change the world, they should cope with the situation of the world, and they were celebrating absurdity in their literature. So there was complete disorientation, absurdity. Instead of finding logic and nationality and rationality, they started celebrating this only. The theaters of absurd was popular. Angry Young Man was there, theater was there, and confessional poetry was being written, and people were free. There were no any specific categorization of the writing movement, and some popular writers of the postmodern age are Samuel Beckett, who has written Waiting for the Godot, and then Harold Pinter, John Osborne, Ted Hughes, Philip Larkin, Agatha Christie, great novelist, some Somerset Maugham, who has written many humorous essays, works, short stories, novels, Doris Lessing, Angela Carter. So this was the gist of the all the ages, and I hope you will find this video helpful, and if so, please subscribe my channel. Thank you so much for listening.